So the lesson that we got going is planning a pizza party, right? Instead of doing our lesson in the book, we're going to do it here on this piece of paper. It says, imagine that you're in charge of throwing a pizza party for your class, and you need to know the total cost of the party. It says, talk with your group to brainstorm several questions to consider before you begin planning. All right. So what I'm going to do, take a pause on the video, write down as many questions as you can, and then come back. So I'll give you a second. All right, now that you're back, right, we have some examples already. It says, how many people will be eating in the class? That's one of the questions. And how many slices is in each pizza? Okay, I came up with some questions of my own, and I wrote those down here. So I came up with how many slices of pizza will each person eat, right? That's an important thing to know for when you're planning a pizza party. How much is it going to cost? You know, like how much are you going to get to be able to spend total? And then one of the big things is what kind of pizza are we buying, right? Are we getting it from like a certain place? Are we getting different kinds of pizza like pepperoni or sausage or, you know, all those kinds of questions, right? So our next thing, it says, what is an unknown quantity in each of your conversations? Use a letter to represent each one. This is called defining a variable. So what I want you to do, take a minute, see if you can figure out some of the variables. All right, now that we're back, I have some variables written down for myself here. So if we take a look, all right, we got all of these different kinds of variables, right? All the unknowns in our questions, I have them all listed out here. So in our example, we have the number of people eating pizza in the class. That's going to be P. We have S is the number of slices of pizza in each pizza, right? And that's a little different than the variable I made here. The variable I made here is Z, and it says Z is the number of slices each person will eat. And now I've kind of broken down some of like the cost ones. So we'll let C be the total cost. We'll let E, right, be the number of pepperoni pizzas because we don't know how many pepperoni pizzas we're going to buy. We need M to be the number of meat pizzas. So anytime we talk about that, we're going to use M. We have U being the number of supreme pizzas, and then I also have another variable down here for T, and T is going to be the total number of pizzas. I made a lot here. We're going to use most of these, right, throughout this document, but these are the main ones that we need. If we keep going, it says, some of the values defined above might be known to you. If so, list them here. So they already have one for S. They're saying that S was, remember, the number of slices of pizza in each pizza. Depending on where you get it, S could be 8, right? So that means that every pizza has 8 slices. I came up with some of my own, right? So I said for Z, for the number of slices each person will get, we'll say Z is equal to 3, right? So that means that each person will get 3 slices of pizza. And let's say that we already know how many people are going to be in our class. We'll say that there's going to be 30 people eating pizza in our class. So that's what P equals 30 means. And if we keep on working here, right, we have another situation. So we have a thing called a constraint. A constraint are limitations on a situation. What constraints are there on each of the variables that remain unknown? So there's some variables that we don't know yet. Like we don't know what P is. So we say P cannot be a negative number and it cannot be a decimal. So if we remember back to P is the number of people eating pizza. It can't be negative because we can't have a negative number of people. And it can't be a decimal, right? We can't have a decimal amount of pizza. I came up with a constraint. I said that T cannot be negative and cannot be a decimal, right? So it's the same thing as up here. Still, if I order, right, if I order pizzas, the total number of pizzas, remember, is T. I can't order a negative amount of pizzas, and I cannot order a decimal amount of pizzas, right? If I call up like Little Caesars, Little Caesars is only going to give me a whole pizza, so I can't tell them to give me like 3.8 pizzas. And then if we were looking at the total cost, right, remember C is the total cost, I just said that it cannot be negative. I didn't put the cannot be a decimal part because remember with money, it can be a decimal, right? If we're talking about like dollars and cents, my cost could end up being a decimal. Okay, so we're not going to put that. So the next one, it says, using the variables and values defined in the previous questions, create at least 3 equations to help determine the cost of the party. Right? I came up with 2 equations, and I want you to come up with a third. I'm going to explain my 2, and then let's see if you can come up with one on your own. So the 2 that I got, I said that, right? Remember, these are the variables that we defined earlier. We said that E was the number of pepperoni pizzas, M is the number of meat pizzas, and U is the number of supreme pizzas. So if I add up all the different kinds of pizzas that I have, it would equal the total amount of pizzas that I'm going to buy, right? So we're using 4 different variables here, adding them all together to get the total number of pizzas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to build off this using this chart below. So this chart below gives us a few different prices of all the different kinds of pizzas from Little Caesars. And we're going to go back up to the top, and we're going to build a total cost equation, right? So we see here that each pepperoni pizza is going to be $5.55. So I attached that price to the number of pepperoni pizzas that we're buying. I see right here that the 3-meat treat is $8.99. So I attached that price to the number of meat pizzas we're going to buy. And then we have the Ultimate Supremes down here. It says that it costs $9.99. So I attached that up here to the number of Ultimate Supreme pizzas we're going to buy. And if I follow this equation, what it would give us is the total cost that we're going to spend for the pizza party, right? What I want you to do is come up with a third equation and write it down, and that will be it.